And hello, everybody. I think we're live right now. I'm not entirely sure.
That'd be cool. Let me look at the window.
Are we alive?
Let me reload the window.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not positive. We're super late. I'm
It
sorry.
says off. It says offline for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Let me see. No, we're live.
Okay. Oh yeah. There's a huge delay. Right.
All right. So, yeah, sorry that we're so late. I had to do all this workaround stuff for what do I have? Yosemite? Is that the new one?
Yeah. Whatever it is.
Well, okay. So here's the thing with OBS, the broadcasting software, or whatever. You basically like use WaveTap. That's what I used to use to like redirect the audio into OBS. But like I had to the new Yosemite thing. It's like it disables all your like external whatever, I forget what it's called, third party crystals.
Yeah. Sure.
And so I had to like go into terminal, like the you know
All these sci-fi terms.
garbage box, and type in to disable that and all this shit. So
Terminal.
we are finally here. Hello.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not showing anything on here just because me and Dan are some trash people.
Yeah. We're gross.
We're
I
having
mean,
we're having a bad time right now.
yeah. We're not feeling great, but we like talking about stuff when we don't feel great because usually other people don't feel great, and then we can all not feel great together, and it makes it better.
Yeah, I mean we're not like dead or anything, or it's not the end of the world. It's just garbage news.
Yeah, so if anyone's ever going to use Amazon fulfillment for their book in the future, something to keep in mind is that there's fulfillment by Amazon, FBA fulfillment, multi-channel fulfillment, FBA export fulfillment, and Amazon fulfillment. Those are all different. They all have different rates. They all do different things.
Yeah,
So if your book is listed on Amazon and you sell a copy in Paris, it costs nothing. It's the $3 stocking fee plus whatever you're paying for storage, and there's no extra fee. If you're fulfilling a book with Amazon domestically, it's just $3. If you're multi-channel exporting a book with Amazon and you have it listed on their site, it's the $3 plus about $1.60. Um, if you ship a book domestically, it's about $3. And if you don't have the book listed on Amazon.com and you export it internationally with multi-channel, but you're not using FBA, it's about $18.
yeah. So
Which they never told us.
yeah, like we had asked them multiple times, but the thing was, is that I mean, like, we're not these
Yeah.
racist people or whatever, but you talk to foreign people and they don't really understand what you're trying to ask them.
Well, the thing is that Amazon's call centers are all over the world, and a lot of them are
Yeah,
in India. And when I ask questions, they kind of parrot back what you say as an answer. So I'll be like, "So it's $3," and they go, "Yeah, it's $3." And
yeah,
even though we talked to supervisors and got confirmation on all the numbers and everything ahead of the Kickstarter, turns out they were wrong.
yeah. So basically, we thought that like originally we were gonna ship everything ourselves.
Yeah,
So like just from home, we weren't
but
gonna
then
use a fulfillment. But then we sold like 7,000 books, and it was
which
like, okay, we can't ship those.
thank you everybody,
Yeah, thank you.
like
Seriously,
so much,
it's
so
still
much.
insane.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But like we couldn't ship it ourselves. Obviously it would take forever. So
Yeah,
we were like, okay, we need fulfillment, and everybody said to use Amazon. So we were like, yeah, of course. And we were actually kind of like worried. We were like, well, maybe we charged too much for shipping
yeah, we
because
were
we like
trying to
didn't really
figure
know
out.
what we were doing. It would have cost so much if we did it on our own. We knew that for sure. But
Because
like,
Amazon gave me two rates. They were like, well,
yeah,
some countries are going to be $3 and some countries are going to be 7. And I was like, oh, okay, 7 makes sense to ship a like if it's $3 domestic, 7 makes sense internationally, I guess.
Yeah, we assumed that they like had a deal in place because obviously it's Amazon and they ship everywhere
Yeah,
all the time. So we thought like, okay, I guess it's not so crazy that it's so cheap.
it's a little more than double domestic. That makes sense to me. And I talked to supervisors and got it confirmed and stuff. And, and then turns out that was all very
But
incorrect.
what's crazy is that we are shipping the book, right? So the book itself has a rate that it costs to make, depending on the volume you sell. So if you sell 7,000, it brings the per book rate down from the factory. But we ended up doing these bumper boxes so that they're protected. They're like these tight boxes that make sure that the edges of your book don't get damaged in the shipment process.
Yes, because
And we
why not?
also had them shrink wrapped too, so that they be protected even more, and that added to the per book costs. So we got to the point where all the domestic fees make plenty of sense, like $5 for domestic.
Yeah,
That
makes
that
sense.
that worked. It was like it pretty much evened out. But we thought, we were trying to highball it because we were like, I know that if you ship to certain countries, it costs more than others. So we were like, all right, I know I've
Right.
sent stuff to this country, and I know the most I've ever paid is like $15. So that's why we charged that for the shipping, so that we'd know that we'd be covered across the
Plus, the
board.
other the other reason you want to highball it, if anyone's ever going to do a Kickstarter, the other reason to highball it a bit is because Amazon counts the money you make off shipping as the income of the project. So when you
Right.
see that number, it includes all the shipping. When you get that money, Amazon takes a fee out of it, and the credit card companies take a fee, which means that a percentage of your shipping, about 5% of all the shipping paid, gets cut right off the top and given to Amazon and the credit card companies.
Yeah.
Then that also counts as income. So you get taxed on the shipping rates. Even though you can deduct them off your income, you have to keep in mind that those all count as fees on top of, it's not just the $5. The credit card company is going to take a cut. Kickstarter is going to take a cut. There's going to be taxes on it. It's all this weird stuff you got to start thinking about.
Yeah, so we basically thought we were highballing it because like we thought $15 to ship a book internationally is a lot. We were like,
Turns
so
out,
that's probably going to be pretty good. But it turns
yeah,
out on Amazon, it actually costs $18. So
yeah,
in total, based on what their estimate was that they gave us, we had to pay like an extra 25 or whatever $1,000.
yeah. It's a little
And
under that,
a little under that, yeah. So,
but I mean, we're fine. We planned ahead, and we can afford to pay it. We just,
yeah.
it's not going to delay the book or anything. We don't want anyone to think that we're like, oh, we can't fulfill now. Like that's not going to happen. We're not those
No.
people.
We like planned ahead. We have the money. We've been like holding on to money just
Yeah.
in case bad things happen. Because,
Um,
of course, it's going to happen.
Mac Smith video in the chat asks, "Can't you just list it on Amazon? Maybe I missed something." Well, here's the difference, Mac. If you list something on Amazon, that means it's for sale on Amazon.com and people can go buy it there. We
Hmm.
pre-sold the book on Kickstarter, meaning that all the books that we made already have people that bought them, so we can't list it on Amazon because people can't buy the book. We
Yeah.
don't have spare copies of the book to list on Amazon. We're we're paying to ship books people already bought to them, so they don't get listed on the site. They're only being fulfilled. So what Amazon does to encourage you to list stuff on Amazon, because this is the thing, if you list something on Amazon and they sell it, they get about $2 to $3 per book as their listing fee. So to try and force people to list their books on Amazon, what they do is they make the international delivery fee and the domestic delivery fee way higher for books that aren't listed on Amazon. So they're trying to encourage you to put it on Amazon, which means that they'll get a cut of all your sales. And if you choose not to, there's basically a penalty. So we're paying that penalty because the books aren't listed on Amazon. So
Yep.
hope that makes sense. I know it's complicated, but basically they go, oh, it's a way better deal if you just give us a percentage of your sales, and then you don't have to pay all these shipping fees, and then that way they make more money. But yeah, so that's where we're at. We just like being transparent about this stuff because we've both backed Kickstarters where you end up having no idea what's going on,
Hmm.
and like we never want to be that. So you know,
Yeah, you get to hear when we fail.
yeah. I mean, the failure stuff is actually you tend to learn more from failures than successes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
But that's what we're
it's good
dealing
to
with now.
share
So
that
we
stuff.
we just heard that last night. So we
Yeah,
stayed up. We both stayed up really late and had to kind of deal with it.
Yeah, I was up till 9 in the morning, just stressing out, looking at numbers and trying to figure stuff out. We made sense of it now. We're gonna do some stuff to make a chunk of it back, but you know, we still did really well on the Kickstarter, and the book still shipped on time, and everything's really great, and we're super thankful to everybody that bought it. Project was still a success. It's just when you plan to spend a certain amount of money and then someone goes, whoops, you actually need to spend more of this, and you have to dig into what you thought was the reserve. It's kind of a hiccup.
It's just a bummer
Yeah.
because all that
But
work.
just a heads up, we're going to explain it when we do the book 2 Kickstarter later this year. International shipping is probably going to have to be higher because it just has to be. Because if the base to ship a book to Europe is about $18 without the cost of having it shipped from China to Amazon, or the bumper box, or the shrink wrap, or the fees, if we charge 15, we're losing $5 a book coming out of our pocket. So it's like
Yeah.
we're going to have to change the numbers for the next one to at least make it solvent.
Yeah, because
It's
twenty
like,
dollars for a hardcover cloth with like an embossed, like foil stamp cover and all that.
it,
Like that's
yeah,
already a ton of money that we're like
yeah,
not making.
we
We took
want
a
the
hit on
books.
that on purpose.
Right, like Kickstarter told us that the average cost of a book like that, when we were looking around and I was talking to people, was about 35 to $45, and that's true. Hardcover books that are in the hundreds of pages are usually about that, but
Yeah, it was a
we
252-page hardcover book with like higher end materials in the
we
process. We
never,
didn't do any of the cheaper stuff, so
yeah, we never
we
want to
didn't
go
really
over
make a huge profit.
never want to go above the 20s range for cost of a book, because then we just think it's too expensive for everybody to get one. So we don't want to alienate or price anybody out. But unfortunately, I mean, this is what sucks, is that the international shipping for the book is going to cost the same as the book, which is crazy, but we have
Yeah.
no control over it.
Yeah, the next books will have to be instead of $20, they're probably gonna have to be like 25 each, which we're still like working everything out, but we're gonna try and find some kind of compromise.
Well, the
Like,
other thing to keep in mind is book one was 250 pages and book two is almost 400 pages.
yeah,
So
so
it's going to be a little more expensive anyways because you're getting 150 more pages. So
yeah,
it has to be a little more expensive because it's almost twice the book of book one. But
yeah, definitely. But yeah, I don't know.
it's where we're at. If anyone has any questions about anything, we'll answer anything. We just I don't know. We've both, like I said before, we've both done a lot of Kickstarters where people want to look like I'm Mr. Professional Person and I'm not going to answer any questions. Like we don't want to be that.
Yeah,
We want to help anyone who's thinking of doing one, or if
yeah,
anyone has questions about what we're talking about, just let us know.
yeah. If you're interested in it and like the logistics of something like that, I
Mm,
mean, we're here. We're gonna keep doing live stream stuff, uh, and we'll be around. So if you ever think of anything like that, feel
yeah,
free to just ask. And we've been through a lot at this point, and we're shipping the book. Now it's coming over from China. It should be there and shipping out in the first week of June. So
it's either in customs right now or it's landing in customs on Memorial Day. We're
yeah,
not
we got this delay
some
because the people in China messed up on shipping.
They literally missed the boat. They got it there and the boat had already left and they went, oh, well, I guess we got to wait for the next boat.
Yeah, literally, we were like, "Oh, so it's gonna get here in May, right?" And they were like, "Yeah, it'll get here in May." Don't it? They were like, "At the very worst, people will be getting the book at the end of May, beginning of June." And we were like, "All right, cool." And
And
then
then
they
they
were
were like,
like, "We missed
oh,
the
we
boat."
missed the boat. And I was like, when's the next boat? And they were like, I don't know, 10 days.
I was like, "What? You
Sick,
guys
dude.
missed the boat?"
Sick.
Oh, cool. This bummed
Mm.
us out. This kind of leads into what I wanted to talk about. Uh, Sarcastic Otter stabbed us and put a smile at the end. He said, "Funny
What
you
he
are
said.
selling tutorials now on your website. I remember you making fun of Gumroad people." Well,
We're
I
too
was making
good
fun of
about that.
people that were like putting one out every like 3 hours.
Yeah, there's people that do Gumroads that are like an hour or less long, and
Yeah.
they were putting one out like weekly, and they would break it down into things like they'd break it down into like, let's say you were going to do a tutorial series on a face, they'd go part one, the nose, and then they'd only give you that. Be like, buy
Yeah.
part two to figure out the eyes, and it's like, fuck you,
But the
like
point of it is that
finish a thing.
like the tutorials that I was selling a couple of years ago, which are the ones that are scrolling in the bottom, they're over 5 hours long, and I talk a ton. It's 5 hours of commentary.
And it's $5. I
It's
mean,
$5. It's like I
that's the thing.
tried to make it worth it.
It's the same as Kickstarter. Like we never thought we'd do a Kickstarter, but we figured out that if we can get the price down low enough that it doesn't price anyone out, then we feel better about doing it. It's the same with
Yeah,
Gumroad.
yeah. We don't want to feel like selfish about anything. Like oh, we just want to make money. Like it's all about us. Like it's more important to us that people can actually read the book.
Right.
And I mean, I would say that in general. Like if you have a project, it's more important that people see it first. Like
Yeah, the audience is more important than the money.
yeah, it's like if you can
Always.
build a group of people that actually enjoy your product and can actually see it, that would be. I think that'd be a little smarter in terms of like when you actually sell something. Like Louis C.K. when he put out his special for $5,
Right.
it's like he sold way more than he ever would have if he charged like $20 or something, or what would normally charge for something like that.
I like this question. If the
Yeah.
boat carrying all the Steve Lichtman books sank, which character do you think the sea creatures would enjoy the most? See, that's weird because they'd probably feel more like they'd feel most familiar with Flay because he's got tentacles, but they might not enjoy him because he seems familiar. They might enjoy the weirder one they've never seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know who it would be.
I would say Flay, but that's too obvious. They'd probably like
It depends. Okay, if it sank really
Dale.
deep, if it sank really deep, I think they would enjoy. That doesn't make any sense. Hmm. The deeper it sinks, the less colors are going to show up.
It's true.
So Ben wouldn't even be visible because yellow's not going to be visible that deep.
He's like an anglerfish.
Ooh, we're getting into the science of this. I think they'd like a character no one's met yet called Xander. Stay tuned.
John said, "So you're not doing a book three? Cause damn, because of the page count. No, we're
Oh,
doing
yeah,
a
we don't
book
have
three.
to- The problem was that originally book one was the first half of book two.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it was all of book two. We just made book two longer, but originally the book one we were going to do was everything that's now in book two and everything that's now in book one, and we were guessing it was going to be around 500 pages. We found out real quick that if we did 500 pages, it was going to cost a really dumb amount of money for our first Kickstarter. We didn't want to have the prices go that high. So we split it up. We found a good place to end it halfway in the middle that felt like a natural kind of cliffhanger. And then we said, okay, so we'll do book two and we'll finish that story arc. And then we added a few more issues to book two and then started having fun with it and coming up with new ideas, which usually happens. And then it became a 400-page thing, which, that's just what happens sometimes. You have fun with a thing and it gets bigger than you thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But there's way more stuff. Like, we have about 5 books planned. Like, we have a rough idea of what book 3, 4, and 5 would be. We just haven't written them yet. So, like, there's some stuff written for book 3, but it's not, like, done. But right now, we think we've got probably 5 books of material in us. We just haven't worked on anything past 3.
Yeah, we've had this like crazy year of just all of this stuff happening, like dealing with everything that's happened since the Kickstarter and building book two and
Right.
like working through all the material. We kind of haven't even look, we haven't stopped yet
Yeah.
doing anything, and it's like it's kind of weird to step back when and see the question and just think of like, oh, oh yeah,
Yeah.
right, we have like 5 books worth of stuff.
Yeah, it's weird because, like, we'll probably jump from. I don't know if we're going to do something else or Steve book 3 after book 2. We might do one of our other projects we want to get off the ground, but
Well,
yeah,
we'll at least start one of the other ones. We'll at least like get it rolling further.
yeah,
Like, of course, we want to do Skull and Shark. We need to be able to make it work. Because the thing is,
right.
is we've learned so much doing Steve. It's like even though Steve looks simple, when you get to doing like a 250 page book, it starts to get
Yeah,
complicated fast.
it's not
Eh,
simple.
no. And like even with the pace of 50 pages a month, which is like what I was trying to maintain drawing,
Hmm.
and at the same time it's like you're writing the scripts and you're editing and you're doing all this other stuff, you're doing the layouts, you got to do design work. There's
Yep.
so much that goes into a book, and when it's a comic book it's like text on every page, you got to do grammar checks and all that. It's like the amount of editing and just like building that goes into the book is just insane. So for something that's painted like Skull and Shark, we need to already have like Acceptable Comics is our banner that we can put stuff out on. So if we can build some kind of reputation for ourselves,
Right.
it would make it easier for us to take time away and do something like that, like build up a project that's going to take a little longer than
Because then
usual.
you have credibility that you can kind of use to justify the weight on that.
Yeah, because otherwise it's like you're just in for a day,
Taking
in
a
for
huge
10
risk.
years.
Yeah. Stone Shark's going to take longer than and it's probably going to be a 2 year project.
Probably, yeah. It's
Yeah,
just, you
based
can't
on.
just, like, I used to just say it, like, on here, oh, Skull and Shark is the thing. It's like, yeah, but you don't know until you actually do a book and ship it. Like,
John, yeah,
it's
I mean,
crazy.
I'll probably do some stuff in the future. The thing is that, like, we've seen books where, like, multiple artists draw the pages, and, like, you can always tell who did this and who did that. And we didn't want to have that. So, like, we broke down the division of labor where it's like, okay, we're both going to write it. We're both going to figure out basically what the layouts are and things that are going to happen and where the page breaks are. Dave draws it. I color it. I do the scripts and I finalize the text. And then, like, we figured out a way to break it down where it's pretty close to 50-50 getting everything out. But, like, when two people work on a thing, it always looks weird because you can tell who did this and who did that because everybody's style is so specific. So, like, I'm probably never going to draw Steve stuff. But for future stuff, yeah, I'll work on stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of having, like, Acceptable Comics is that we can do more. We don't, it's
Right.
not called Steve Lichman, you know what I mean? So it's like, we can put other things out. We can do other books. We can like we talked about doing a whole bunch of different projects. Like,
Right.
there's kind of like infinite possibilities if you just have a publishing banner.
Yeah, I mean, we've got this backlog of stuff we want to do already, and like we're going to have new ideas while we work on those that are going to push some of the older ones out of the way. And you never know what's going to happen. It's the important thing is to just make sure you're working on what's fun at the moment because you don't want to do something just because you feel like you have to do it. If it's not exciting, you should probably wait or think of a better way to do it.
Yeah. We got a question from Lost Parachute.
Sure.
Says, can you guys talk about your approach to storytelling? Are there any particular goals you have with it, or do you just have fun?
I think the big thing that we try to do, I mean, because the only stuff we've really done so far is Steve. We kind of dabbled with Starville a little bit, but Steve's really the big thing we've done. It's like we want the story to feel relatable, so we really focus on making the dialogue feel the way people naturally talk.
Yeah, like the way that we do it is just like improv stuff.
Yeah,
So
basically.
like we just start writing and we go like, okay, we know that we're gonna go here with the story. Sometimes we don't even care. We just like start and we just start talking back and forth,
Right.
like just like random ideas of like, like what's funny about, like it's cool to have a little like sandbox, like the D&D world and
Right.
video games, RPGs, all that stuff. It's like you get to look at it and go, why is this stupid? Or what if this were real? Like,
Yeah, what's
why is that
funny,
funny?
what's usable.
Yeah, so then we kind of just go off that and make up premises for things, and like what if David Blaine were in this world?
Right.
Like stuff like that, like, and then you kind of just become characters and improvise lines back and forth until we find stuff we like, and then start just writing off the top of our head. We hardly do any editing,
Hmm.
like editing as far as like rewriting lines and things, because it feels more spontaneous. Like, you, to me, like you shouldn't be funny right away. Like you shouldn't have the best line you can think of like right off the bat, because that's not very
No.
natural. Like people don't talk like that.
We
So if
gotta
you
build
keep
up to
things
it.
like first draft, it feels more like how people actually talk to each other.
Yeah. Um, would we ever want to publish other people's comics? I think we'd like to help other people figure out how to publish their stuff, but I don't know if we'd ever want to like take a cut.
Not for a long time.
Yeah. We'd have to like really change what our business model is and what we want to do and kind of not be working on our own stuff to do that. But yeah, we're down to help people, but I don't know if we'd want to, for the time being, put anything out under our name.
Daniel Cotter said, but the Twitch is called Steve Lichman. Yeah, we had to. I mean, for right now, we have to live under the banner of Steve Lichman because he's all that's popular. It's like he's all people know. So maybe eventually our actual like acceptable comics will be a thing. But for now, it's Steve is everything for us,
I
and
can
then
answer
it'll
that
grow
question.
beyond that.
Isilor says, Dave, I've been studying your work for years, but I can't understand how you've gotten the texture in your Nocturne piece for League of Legends. It's the small scratches and bumps I can't figure out how to do. Well, Dave zoomed way in and actually just did them. Those aren't like Photoshop tricks or brushes. He just zoomed in and painted all of it.
What are you talking about?
The texture you got in your old League of Legends stuff.
Oh yeah, those are all just by hand.
Those aren't tricks or Photoshop brushes or anything. Dave just zoomed in and manually painted all the scratches.
It is a little dotty brush, but that's just because whatever. But I still, it's not
Yeah.
like you know when you use a brush and it's like da 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 blades of grass. It's not like that kind of thing.
Because I remember when you were like, I have to make these images like 10,000, 15,000 pixels tall so I can zoom in far enough to do it.
Yeah, it was really dumb. I got like
Yeah.
super into like rendering, and I don't feel alive.
But anyway,
Max Smith, I like your I like your comic by the way. It's cool. You got a lot of energy in all your pages and everything. If you guys haven't seen it, you should go check out Max Smith's comic. What the hell is it called? It's the one with the mice and the cats. I can't remember
yes.
the name. Max, say the name of your comic in the
Say
chat
the name,
and
Mac.
link to it. Can you link to it? Maybe you can't.
I can.
But it's on Tapastic if you
Scur-
guys
is
use
Scurry?
that. Scurry. There it is.
Scurry, yeah.
I
I
knew it
will
was
link-
an S, I just couldn't think of it.
I will link to the Patreon
Yeah, link to the
in
Patreon.
the chat. Go check out Scurry. It's got really cool energy and really cool painting.
Yeah. Max said, I like the Penny Arcade podcast where they just come up with the idea for the strip by goofing around. That would be cool to hear. Yeah, I mean, we could probably do that at some point. Well, you know, if we can ever feel natural doing that.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
It's hard to feel natural writing unless you're like just talking to each other on the phone. If I'd never told Dan we went live, maybe it would work.
That's true. Yeah, the other thing, if anyone decides to write with like a friend or like have a partner they go in with, is like get every idea out, especially the terrible ones. Even if you know it's terrible and it's never going to get used, if you don't get it out of your head, it's going to circle around and you're not going to make room for new ideas. So like, even if it sucks, just say it and get it out, and then go on to the next one. And for every 30 that you don't use, you'll find one that you like. And
Yeah,
like,
never-
it's a numbers game.
Never let yourself feel stupid.
Mhm.
Just do it. Just make the things look, I mean, sound stupid. Just say the idea, have it be bad, float it out there, and whatever.
Yeah.
The Mad Mick asks, Dave, do you think you go back to the way you used to do that intense rendering, or is that all past, all in the past for good? I mean, eventually, but it's just so time consuming. The thing that's cool about
I
what
thought
we're
that was
doing
your
now.
answer. Sorry. I thought that was your. I think you said all in the past for good.
No,
I was
no,
like, wow, that's a crazy blunt answer.
no. The thing with it is that it's so time consuming that what you're working on better be good, you know? It's like if you're gonna put the time into it, like doing the comic now, I've realized how important it is to have like some focus. You know, sometimes you can like do whatever and just kind of have fun that way, and it's nice to do random things once in a while, and not really care what happens to it. Like that feels good, but as far as diving into it for like 80 hours or something like that, or like 40 hours or whatever of work, I don't feel like I can do that right now, because I'd rather spend that time making like a story or something funny, or like whatever, like things like that have more quality to them, and as far as like relating to people and having like any kind of like meaning to me personally. Like I enjoy when that stuff gets finished. Like when we finish a comic, I can look over it and it's like a story and it feels good. And maybe it's like something I've been thinking about for a long time, and it's hard to do that. It's hard to make it worth it in like a highly rendered image like this makes sense to do for this many hours when I have all of these other things to do. I don't know. Just for now, it'll come back, I'm sure.
Dave, John Silva's messaging me on Skype and saying, hey, watch out. There's a possibility we're going to get a warning if we're under creative section and we're not showing anything creative and talking. We should change it to gaming talk shows or something.
Oh, okay.
We don't understand Twitch yet because we're new to it. Is Twitch really that sensitive about what channel you're under? That's weird. That's too bad.
It is pretty creative, though. Talking about creative stuff.
Let's keep going, I guess. I mean, if we get a warning, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we can just change it.
We're still new to Twitch, so forgive the learning curve.
Oh yeah, somebody asked if we're doing more Jim Singleman.
Oh yeah, I mean, eventually, yeah.
We wrote about like 300 of those.
Yeah, we have so many ready to go. We're focused on other things right now.
Yeah. It's so crazy to have everything that you have in terms of like scripts and stuff and just never show anyone.
Yeah, like it's crazy that number one, no one's seen 2/3 of book one, and number two, no one's seen any of book two, and we've been sitting on it for like almost a year. And it's like it exists to us, but no one's seen it, and like sometimes I want to scream.
Yeah, it's really crazy. Like
I just want people to see it.
Well, you kind of you have to get out of the mindset of Facebook and Twitter and all
exactly.
All those other websites where you just post stuff and you're like, boom, instant feedback.
Yeah, that gratification's gone. That immediate gratification, right out the window.
Yeah, so you have to like Dan let his brother borrow his proof copy of Steve Lichman book one to read.
Yeah,
and like, I'm just sitting here in the shadows waiting for the feedback. Does he like it? Does he like
it?
Yeah,
Dave texts me like every day, and he goes, "Has Phil said anything? What chapter is he at? Does he like it? I need to know."
Yeah, it's like you need to know that the thing you did works, like that it made sense.
Yeah.
That anybody's gonna like it. Like, but what's crazy is that we got like 1 million views or something on like the first bunch of Steve comics, like however many it was total, a lot. And it's like, and that's still not enough. It's like I just need somebody to hold it and go like, cool. Like, if somebody just says cool, I don't know.
I need someone to shake my hand and look me in the eye and say this was worth it. What you did was worth it. Don't worry.
You know that couple of years you spent on that thing?
It's worth it.
It's worth it, you idiot. See you later, kid.
What you did is worth it.
Yeah, it's so nuts. But, I don't know. It'll feel good once people review it or something.
It's fine, man. Just gotta shut your brain off and try not to feel emotions.
Try not to feel human.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not like you guys. I can exist in a bubble and never show anybody anything.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool to have hundreds of pages of comic that no one's seen for months and months and months and months.
Yeah, it was okay for a long time. It didn't really bother me for like a really long time. And then
that's because we were working on it for that long time. And then when we were done with it, that's when it started to hurt.
Yeah, then it turned around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. We were gonna do the audiobook on here live, which who knows?
I'm still gonna
if anybody likes it.
We have to fix a couple things that peaked in the audiobook. The rest of it's pretty much like ready to go. It's like I've been waiting to fix the peak stuff because I want to stream it because we told people we would stream audiobook stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm just holding off on that until, well, you're going away briefly to enjoy the world for a couple days. But when you get back, I'll probably stream it
Yeah. Enjoy
just
it
because
the
I don't
best I
want to.
can.
I don't want to stream it alone. It's not as funny alone.
Will you stream when I'm gone?
Yeah, I'll stream. I'm not going to stream the audiobook.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. I'll be doing probably some studies and some paint over stuff and, the usual stuff we used to do when we were doing streams all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any Steve stuff I can do on here really that we don't want to show it to people.
Right.
Because it's all too. I don't want to give it away.
And like the other half of book one's editing stuff for the audiobook, can't really show that.
Yeah, right.
More
Yeah,
than another
find
half.
something.
Way more than that.
It's all good.
Pin Shivik asks, Dave, I'm a fan of your sketchbook. I was
Is that
wondering
your
if you can
subtitle sketchbook?
probably, and I was wondering if you can talk a little about what were you doing and how are you practicing. It's just daily fundamentals, anatomy, painting from life, but in the computer, like putting a bottle on my desk and using Photoshop, painting light that way, and then studying anatomy just a couple hours a day, and then I would slowly go crazy. It's
Yeah.
just super hard. That was a really hard time to work it up. And then we did the Crimson Daggers, and I started studying that way, where like we would have our like studies that move into the work that you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
like studying things that you would be painting later. So if you're painting like certain kind of like skin on an orc or whatever, it's like then you would get something that kind of looked like that in real life and paint from that, or find a reference photo, paint from that, and build up your kind of knowledge, and then you would put it into work in the image and hopefully hold on to it a little better, and did that for a little while too, but yeah, long process. Dan,
Yeah,
will you be
then
streaming from under your blanket?
if I do the fixes on the audio, which I am going to stream those, then yes, that will have to be under a blanket so the echoes don't drown it out.
Yeah.
So yes, that will be live under a blanket. That will happen sometime next week.
Isilor asks, completely off topic, but do you guys have any hidden 80s, 90s horror movie gems? I've seen all the classics, so it's hard to find anything new.
Hidden? God, I mean, I don't know how obscure you want to get. We've seen tons.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not like a huge fan of the hidden ones. Like they're funny sometimes,
Yeah,
but
they're
they're
usually like
not
right
like
on that line
amazing.
of too campy or something.
Yeah. I like which one is, I mean, this isn't hidden or anything like that, but
Yeah.
that one where they where that girl dances in the graveyard naked. Is
Oh
it
yeah,
Night of the Living Dead or something? I don't know, the
it's
80s one.
fucking know
Return?
what I'm talking about too.
I don't remember.
Shit, it's been a long time.
That one's like one of my favorites. That one's like kind of campy, but I just like the soundtrack and the feeling of it. It's really cool.
Let's just talk about horror movies in general from the 80s. What's your favorite? I mean, you know what my favorite is.
Uh, in just like a nostalgia way,
Yeah,
all
like
of the
one
Nightmare on
one
Elm Street.
right.
The one where he has the needles for fingers, the Dream Warriors,
Yeah, that one's great.
because it
Dream
has the
Warriors.
Dawkins song in the
Dream
beginning.
Warriors is my favorite.
The girl plays in one of the versions of the movie on her radio in the beginning. It plays Into the Fire by Dokken, and that was like my favorite. And they did the soundtrack, Dream Warriors, and then like all the kids can fight Freddy in it. I loved that movie so much when I was a kid.
My favorite horror movie of all time is the first Hellraiser,
Yeah.
and it will probably always be my favorite horror movie. The
What's
thing
his
about
name?
Hellraiser, what?
That guy, Is it Frank? It's me, Uncle Frank.
It's Frank. It's Uncle Frank. You look
Yeah.
you look beautiful. Yeah, no. The thing about Hellraiser that I love, this is the thing that this is like the lore discussion that me and Dave have had a couple times on streams. Why we like hate when fans come in and write stuff because they focus on the wrong things. Like Hellraiser 1 is amazing because you don't really know what the Cenobites are. They're like these weird, other dimensional, creepy beings that, like, you don't know what rules apply to them, and they're, like, magical, and, like, they're really ethereal and strange and scary. And, like, there's just a hint of them. Like, they're the thing you remember from Hellraiser, but they're only on screen for maybe 10 minutes of the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like, they're really not around at all.
Well,
but they are.
it's the same thing as when people explain everything about Boba Fett. It's
Exactly.
like the reason Boba Fett's cool is because he lives in your imagination. He's anything
Yeah,
you want him to be. He's a
he's
bounty
got
hunter, but
he's
beyond
got
that,
exactly. He's got 3 minutes of screen time across all the movies, and he's the thing you typically remember the most for a lot of people.
yeah.
And like it's the same thing with the Cenobites, where like you don't know what they are, and that's why they're cool because you're supposed to be the character. The main character is a surrogate for the viewer, and she doesn't understand them, and that's why they're scary because you don't understand them, and they're inhuman. So that's why they're cool. Then you get Hellraiser 2 and Hellraiser 3, where they explain how they're made. They were humans, and like this is where they came from, and this is how you can become a Cenobite. And oh, a Cenobite world. It's like now it sucks. You
Well,
ruined
here's the
it.
thing: if you can relate to it, it's not very scary like that. It's
Exactly.
like
I don't.
if you could be a Cenobite.
I don't want to know where Pinhead came from because it destroys Pinhead. I want him to be a weird, creepy thing that I never learned anything about because that's why he's scary. I don't want to know that he was an adventurer in Africa.
Yeah.
Don't care. Like, but anyway, back to the point. Love Hellraiser 1. So good.
There's a really
I
good question in the chat, but I don't know if you want to keep talking about horror movies.
No, we can keep going. I can talk about Hellraiser for a whole day, but let's keep going.
Okay. Next question, because this one's good.
Yeah.
It says, Dan and Dave. This is from Kasney. Sure, Kasney. Do you often see something wrong? Oh, okay, hold on. Dan and Dave, do you often see something wrong with people doing their personal projects? I'm doing one myself, so I'm curious for tips and stuff.
Wrong is like a strong word to use. I think people take the wrong things from other people's projects and they assume that they have to do those things. And I kind of see that and I go, oh, that's too bad that they feel like they have to copy what this other person's doing because you really don't have to. I mean, I don't think I look at them and I think what they're doing is wrong. It's just kind of like people copy other people's projects a lot and copy the format and the template because they assume one thing being successful means a copy of it will also be successful. And that's kind of like, do something, do your own thing, do something more original, take a risk. Like, I think that a lot.
When I see people's personal projects, I don't know, it's like the thing that I always think about is like, I mean, I'm probably wrong, but it's just my opinion of it is that a lot of it feels like it's not very personal. Like,
Sure.
personal projects, I mean, projects in general, books in general, or anything. It's like when people really like something, it comes from a place that, like, I don't know, is relatable, something you enjoy, something that other people can tap into. Like, uh, just like specifically, like one thing I talk about sometimes is the procrastination. And like, you talk about things that are really gross about procrastination that people don't usually talk about. And
Right.
everybody feels like they're the only one who does that. And then when you
Yeah.
talk about it, they go, oh man, that's me. And it's like, to that level, maybe not so hard in that direction, but stuff like that. It's like, what's in your world that's unique to you? It's like, I feel like people go outside of their own realm of like understanding to make stuff
Hmm.
because they want to be something else. You know, like the grass is always greener. It's like you want to make this thing that you like to see. It's like, but maybe it's not you. Like, you can enjoy those things, but like maybe you don't fully understand or like can relate in the same way. Like, I could never write, I don't know, like some of the books I've read where they talk about like war. It's like I would never dare really do that because it's like I really don't know anything about it. Like, I can't really relate. Like, I can relate to like death, but like
Hmm.
outside of that, I've never experienced those things. I couldn't tell you the little details that you feel when you're going through it. And it's like, if I think when people can get personal and like find something in them that they can put into even like fun stuff, like, like Guardians of the Galaxy, there's a lot of like little character traits in there that people can like relate to, even if it's
Right.
not super deep. It's just something that feels more personal, and I
I
think stuff
actually
like that's important.
I thought of a thing that we should talk about in regards to this question because we've been talking about it, the two of us, a lot, but I don't think we've really talked about it on the stream ever.
Sure.
One thing I think that people do wrong, I will say that this is wrong, and it's not wrong in like a you fucked up, you're wrong way. It's wrong as in a you would never think to think of it, so it never crossed your mind kind of way. Like, it's just a new way to think about it. It's not like a judgment on anyone's project. It's just like this will help you if you get into this mindset, but none of us do. Is that we play to the audience of the bubble that we're in, and
Right.
that tanks projects. What I mean by that is like people, because of how social media works, if you're an artist doing concept art, you're following concept artists, you're seeing concept art every day, you're inundated with the current trends and what art has to look like, and you get this skewed, flawed idea of what success means, because if you see it constantly, you assume that that's what's successful. So what you do is you see like portraits of characters that are looking like really realistic. You see environments and things. So when you do your project, you do portraits of the characters in your world and environments, and you put them out, and you go work for my personal project. Artists like it, artists share it, but no one outside of the art community cares because people that aren't in that community don't latch on to just static images of characters. They may think they look cool, and they may be like, "Oh, it's a cool character," but they won't get into your world that way. Like, we assume that because big artists put out this kind of work and we see it shared around all the time, that that's a metric for success. But the art community is really only a couple thousand people. It's not a
Right.
ton. At most, it's maybe 5, 6 thousand tops. So what you need to do is start realizing that to get people interested in your IP, because I've seen so many people put tons of work into their IP and they call it like, this is my project, this is my IP, this is my story, but then no one cares, nobody buys it, no one funds their Patreon, no one's willing to give them the money to take the time to do it. And the reason isn't that it's a bad project or a bad idea. It's that you haven't given anyone a reason to care about this world you're creating because you're only marketing it to other artists. The only thing you're putting out there is stuff that artists want to see. And those artists that are seeing it are probably busy trying to make money to get their own stuff off the ground, so they're less likely to fund you.
Yeah.
So we went hard into comics. We did Steve in a style that doesn't work with the art community at all. It's not realism, it's not flashy, it's just very simple stuff. And we're going after other groups that aren't the art crowd. We're going after normal people that like reading webcomics. We're going after people that like D&D, people that like video games. We're going after people on Tumblr, people that just happen to be browsing online comic things. And like, that's how you get something off the ground. It's not marketing it to only your peers, because that's what people are doing now and they don't even think about it. They just assume because that's what they see other artists doing that that's what you have to do. But if
Yeah.
you're an artist who wants to get their IP off the ground and you only market it in a way that other artists are going to care about and you never get out of that art community bubble, it is going to tank your project faster than probably anything else.
I mean, the deal with that too is this, like, think about it in terms of anything else. It's like, what is a tree in the woods? You don't
Right.
see it. A tree in the desert, there it is. You can be that person who does the highly rendered stuff and whatever, like a lot of people do for their properties, and just be like, this is what it is. And to everybody in your immediate community, it might seem like, well, that's played out. Like, everybody does that.
Hmm.
So you don't stand out as much. But let's say you go and you take that over to Reddit. You take that over to Imager with like some interesting story elements or something like that. It's like, like if you can put that thing into other environments that are lacking that thing, then
Right.
you're gonna stand out. Like, people will notice it, especially if it's, well done. It doesn't even need to be like, this crazy fleshed out story. I mean, like, it doesn't matter that much. It's like
Right.
it's all about contrast. If you only show it to people who already are inundated with that thing, then it's never really going to go anywhere. You'll probably get peers, like, who like it and think that it's really cool, and you'll be successful in terms of like, the viewership within that community maybe.
Right.
But you want to, if you plan on making a like a property where you're selling it, or trying to get eyes on it, then you want to be somewhere else where it's going to be more of a focus.
Well, you got to start thinking about what are all the facets of my finished project. So, let's say you're an artist who wants to make a game. Let's say it's a 2D game, and you know what it's going to look like, and in your head, you know it's going to be cool if people would only just give you a shot and let you fund it and make it happen. Showing concept art of your world gets artists on board because they might see the designs and go, "Oh, that's a cool design," but that's it. What you'd have to do to get other people is start doing mock-ups of what the levels would look like. Maybe get a programmer to do a little test thing. Maybe make a little animated video in Photoshop that shows what the game would look like if someone was playing it. That will get people that see the gameplay and go, "Oh, I want to play that game." Those are people that aren't in the art community. People that are into the retro aesthetic just in general are going to see that and go, "Oh, okay, now I'm in." Like you have to start putting lures out to other communities that aren't just the art community. Like if you know the story of your graphic novel is going to be great, but you're just doing character concepts because you want to wait to make the money to, fund the book, you're never going to do it. What you should do is just start making pages or start writing down the plot and putting stuff out there, or, just start making the thing, because people might not care about the designs, but if they read your narrative and they go, "Oh, this story's actually really cool. The way that character acts is great. Oh, look how well this page is done." Those people are going to be on board all of a sudden. Like, I mean, I'm just restating the same thing over and over, but I think the biggest mistake people make is they only market it to other artists. And other artists most likely aren't going to pay for your thing because they're busy trying to get people to pay for their thing.
Yeah, they're all trying to do their own stuff.
But yeah. And if you're just listening to this and you're not in the art community and you're just like the comic, then thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry to ramble about stuff that means nothing to you.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, like, we've both gone through that before with stuff, is like, me and Dave have done promotional images for things in the past that we think are cool, and people will go like, "Oh, that's cool," and you get a big spike on Facebook of likes, and then it's gone.
Well, okay. Here's the one thing that I kind of take for granted now, because I've been thinking about it for years.
Sure.
But I think it helps, because it helped me anyway. Was I used to put out like Skull and Shark stuff.
Yeah.
The shirts, the poster imagery, like promises that went nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
I put up like test pages that I didn't finish because I didn't think they were great.
That one time we put out Halloween and then nothing happened.
Yeah, it's like we had all of these things that were like launching, and images and the trailer and all this stuff. And the soundtrack, Laserhawk did a whole soundtrack specifically for the book.
Laserhawk's done more work in our IP than we have.
Yes, Laserhawk,
big ups to Laserhawk. It might as well be his
dude.
at this point. It's Laserhawk's Skull and Shark.
It's his.
Yeah, he basically owns it. He's done more than we have.
Yeah, so
fuck.
Like, we have this script, all that stuff, but like the problem with it is, and I see this with people's properties, is that it's really hard to be motivated to finish something like that, because the problem is that you put it out into the world and you get this like confirmation that you did it. Yep. Everybody goes, "This is cool, that is great," whatever, and you get a good feeling inside, and that makes you like not as motivated to keep going with it. It feels like you actually did it. It's the same thing that when you talk about stuff you want to do too much, if you go like, "Oh, I want to be this, I want to do this, I want this for myself, I want to whatever," and then people tell you, they go, "Yeah, that is a good idea, you should do that, that's great, mm-hmm. Did you think of that?" And it's like, when that happens, you get this confirmation that isn't real. It's like you didn't actually do that thing yet, but everybody's like telling you, "Yeah, great, you're going to go on a diet, awesome, wow, good for you." It's like, well, you didn't do anything yet, but you get the feeling, you get the same reaction as if you did it. And that's really bad. So, like, that's why we didn't release Steve until the book was, like, done. For, like, sure. We had the comics up online, like the one-off ones, when we didn't know we were going to do it. Yeah. Like, we didn't know it would be a book.
Yeah, we were just like, "Oh, we got a webcomic now, cool."
Yeah, but like when we went in and we dropped the 60-page preview, like we had been working on the book for a long time. Mm-hmm. And like we didn't want to show anything else because it did feel good when people laughed at it or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we were like, okay, now that we're going to do this book, let's not really talk about it, let's just do it. Let's just do the
Yeah,
whole
because
thing and then kickstart it.
once you get that satisfaction if people enjoyed it, you don't want to do it anymore because you've done it. You want to move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Um, Question from Dorothy. Would it also be personal if a personal project relates to, say, fairy tales? In my case, if I'm influenced and loved fairy tales since my childhood, of course it's a personal project.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people who, just to give people an idea of like what you can do, the amount of stuff in public domain that you don't have to pay a royalty to use. Like, I remember a few years ago, somebody just did a graphic novel of Peter Pan because they love Peter Pan and they kickstarted it. They were like, I'm just going to do a comic of Peter Pan, and they made a bunch of money, and it was really cool. There's tons of fairy tale art books all over the place that people decide they want to do. And like, I backed Anna, I think her name's Anna Morbacher, Pete's wife. She did this 1001 Nights fairy tale book with these beautiful line art drawings, and like there's a coloring book coming with it, and like really awesome, beautifully designed things that are all based on, fairy tales from around the world and mythology and stuff like that. And that's the most personal thing in the world when you look at it, because no one could have done what she did with it but her. It's completely personal to her. Like, that's still totally a personal project because the spin you're going to bring to something like that is totally unique to you.
Right.
So like, it's not going to look like if someone else did it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I
mean, as
mean,
long
like,
as it's something that you feel passionate about in like a deeper level, where like I have ideas all the time that are just like one-off things. I'll think in my head, oh, this would be cool, because I was like listening to a song and like I thought of a scene, and I was like, that would
yeah,
be cool. And then when I actually like sit down to do anything about it, it's like, oh well, it doesn't have much depth to it, or like it's not really something I can like execute on because it was just spontaneous, but like not a lot of moving parts to like go off of. But if it's something that's like based in your childhood, like it's something you've grown up with, then that kind of stuff. It's like you have a lot to pull from.
one thing I got wrong. It's 82 nights, not 1001, but it is Anna Morbacher. I'll put a link in the chat if anyone
Thousand and
wants to
One
see.
Nights, isn't that Sega Saturn game?
No, 1001 Nights is the Shahrazad's tales in Arabian Nights that she told the guy, and
Oh
it's
yeah,
like
right.
all the
Never
Sinbad
mind.
stories and all that. Yeah, that's. But
Yeah,
yeah, check that out, and you'll see what
Nights
I
is what I'm
mean.
thinking
Like,
of.
the stuff she brings to that project is totally unique to her. Like, no one would have done that visual thing with it but her. So it's it's a personal project.
Tio, is this going to be recorded? Yes, this is being recorded. So if you gotta go or whatever else, we'll put this up on YouTube.
Hmm.
And the link to the YouTube's below the Twitch stream video. Mm-mm-mm. John asks, here's a broad question, but if you had to pick, what is the number one advice you'd give to past selves?
I mean, this one's personal to me, I guess. Not really
Yeah.
an art thing, but I'd say hire a personal trainer sooner than I did. Like a year ago, I just decided because I just wanted to like get in shape, and I knew if I didn't have a reason to keep going to the gym, I wouldn't go. I just hired a personal trainer. I looked up, who can I find that's military? Like, I wanted to find someone really intense who wasn't going to let me fuck up. And I found this ex-Marine counterterrorism guy who's in my town who's a personal trainer. And I was like, cool, I'm hiring you. I'm going to see you 3 times a week. And me getting in shape is, like, it's basically like outsourcing your own improvement. Like, it's on you now. You're a specialist. I don't have to worry about it because if I listen to you, it's going to happen, and the results have been great, and I feel better, and I'm getting in shape, and I'm healthier and stronger and more energy and sleeping better, and like should have done it years ago. Like, if you're in the art community or anything else really at this point, so many jobs have it. If you've got that sedentary lifestyle where you're basically just sitting in front of a computer all the time, like, I can't recommend enough just hiring a person to force you to get up and do physical stuff a few times a week. Because I don't know if you're like me, but if I leave it to myself, yeah, I might go to the pool and do some laps, but I also might just go, I'll do it tomorrow and go to bed. Like, I don't want to leave it up to me because I know my natural rhythm is going to be to not do it. So putting it on somebody else really helped, and I would have done that a lot sooner than I did.
For me, well, the first one, which is, whatever, it's stupid, but I would say that I don't really regret anything because all the failure and everything I did wrong you know, that led to this point. That led to whatever happened. So
Yeah.
I can't really say that anything was bad. But if I had to say anything about it, um, one thing I do regret is feeling like not this might sound bad, but like feeling like everything was better than me. Feeling like I didn't matter as much as the industry mattered without me. It's like I always felt intimidated by like the idea of like concept art or like working in movies is like this big thing. It's like this overshadowing monster. It's like you have to be a certain person to do those things. And I always like the goal isn't bad. Like I would never say that like having a goal like that is bad, but I always felt like I was less important than all of that stuff. So whenever I had ideas that were more or less like Steve Lichman, like the comic, the comic was, it's not something that's particularly marketable in the world that I wanted to be a part of. It's like there wasn't really this like thing I could put it against and say like, oh, this idea works here, because the only thing I knew about was concept art and stuff like that.
Right.
So I never let myself invest in ideas. I never let myself do like the dumb things, like things I thought would be stupid. I never let myself be spontaneous with just fun ideas. Like fun ideas I had off the cuff. I thought like if it's not serious, if it's not like cool, then it doesn't matter. Like it's not as important as all these other things. But
Right.
then, after just finally doing it, you find out that like the thing, it's like everybody always tells you to follow the thing that you love. And you think that it's just the job you have. You go like, okay, it's art, so it's this one specific part of art and that's what I love, so I'm going to do that. But really, what do I actually love? Like if I were to sit down and say, what do I really love? It's when I'm just hanging out with like Dan and we're just talking, we're just saying ideas, we're joking around.
Right.
Why isn't that the thing that I love, that I follow? Why isn't that the dream? So it was like I wouldn't let myself see that as an option. You can't just have fun in that way and become whatever you want to be. Like I never let myself consider that as a possibility. And then when we finally did it, it was like, oh, I get it now. I get when people say that. Like people who are successful talk about like, follow your dream, follow what you love. It's like you almost have to keep finding out what you actually like over and
Right.
over and over. And if you finally can like find some part of it, even if it's just the beginning of something, the seed like what grows from that is bigger than anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my one little regret.
Yeah. I think that's pretty spot on. I mean, I think everybody in general can relate to the idea of, wait. I wouldn't call it wasting time, but like the years you put into the career choice, thinking you have to do certain things because of what other people are doing or what you see being done or assumptions you have about what you're doing, and like, oh, I got to do this, got to do that. But yeah, you get to a point eventually where you're like, oh, I didn't really have to do any of that.
Yeah, you're like, oh, it doesn't actually matter. Like this, like it's funny how, I mean, it's gone away, but when we first started doing like comics, I'd get comments all the time like, why are you just doing this? Like this
Yeah.
is like almost like it didn't matter. It was just stupid. And I thought it was like I got it. I understood what they were saying. I was like, yeah, I know. It's not like serious art or anything. But
Hmm.
now I'm like, no, this is way more serious than anything I've ever done. It's way more me. Like it's like you get to like I'm talking to you when I do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just have it's like you have a different respect for things that quote unquote matter. It's like um, I was looking at like the Cyanide and Happiness comics, and it's like
Yeah.
they're just stick figures. But like how
Yeah.
popular are those and like why? Because people relate to
It's
them and they like them. It's like an experience.
right. The drawing only matters to a very select, like the quality of the drawing only matters in a very specific community, and like no problem if that's the community you want to thrive in and that's what you want to do and climb that ladder and really be the best at rendering stuff. Like that's great. If that's your passion, totally do that. But I think a lot of people freak themselves out of doing their ideas because they go, I'm not good enough to do a comic. I'm not
Yeah.
skilled enough to execute a page. And it's like the most popular webcomics are literally stick figures and very quickly drawn kind of cartoon stylized stuff. Like you absolutely can do it. People
Yeah,
just get freaked out thinking they have to be better than they are.
you do whatever you can do with the tools you have right now, and then
It's
you
like
grow from there.
it's like the South Park thing. Like look at what they did with cutout paper, like the most crudely animated thing in the world. Like it's the ideas that carry the show, not the execution.
Yeah.
But hey guys, I've been working at a who is that guy 4242. Hey guys, I've been working at a game studio for almost 2 years and while I enjoy a lot of the things about it, I don't feel like I'm growing as much as I could by being there. I'm somewhat getting bored of the work, which is mostly environment paintovers. I'm torn between staying there some more, gathering experience on big titles, etc., or just quitting and living off my savings while getting good at art, what I truly enjoy doing, character art. Well, I mean, I think you answered your question right there in the question. It's if what you truly enjoy is character art, then you should find a way to get on track doing character art. If you have more fun doing it, then you owe it to yourself to do that.
Yeah. Always chase the thing that you feel energy from. Like, either obviously, like when you're working hard and you're studying, like it will feel bad. Like doing the comic book felt bad. Like
Yeah,
it was really cool, and I like writing it with Dan. Like we write it, we have a lot of fun, we laugh and stuff. But like when you're doing the meat of the work, it's really hard. So it's like if you have a feeling like you're gonna enjoy something and like you know that it's something you can get into, then start doing that thing whenever you can, and then after that, like if it feels like it's getting too hard, maybe that's you should just keep doing it. Like keep getting through, break through that wall. But if
right,
it feels repetitive and like boring and you don't have like energy for it, like the spark of ideas, then just try something else around it. Maybe switch up your style, maybe like your approach. Give your brain something to engage with. Because a lot of what I didn't like about working in games and doing concept art and things was that I started to run like a machine where I had a process I followed every time, and it was like, I can
right,
do this, I can make money doing this, but at the end of the day, I feel like I'm not applying myself to anything, so I don't feel like any of it's really working. Like it's not, there's no payoff, I'm not growing from it, so
right.
I would change my approach, my style, whatever, and then like maybe just the whole idea, I'd start doing animation or something, and then that would change my brain again, and I'd be like, oh, this is a new problem, and then I'd feel good about doing it again. I
Yeah,
think
and
that's important.
I mean, like, I get where you're coming from on that guy. Like, just to like back when we were gonna do Skull and Shark the first time, I wanted to move up towards Boston so me and Dave could like work on it and be closer. And like, I wanted to save up a bunch of money so I could take time off to do it. And right around that time, I got offered a gig to work on Transformers 4 and go in house. And like, I went, okay, cool. This is the money I'm gonna need to take time off to do Skull and Shark, and it gets me up in Boston. I'm like, this is good. I'll just do this for a few months, make some money, take it off, do Skull and Shark. And after those few months working on it, they offered me a full time thing. And I was like, it feels good to have the regular income and to have the security and like a 9 to 5. And at 5, I can kind of just either stay and work on freelance or go, okay, now I've done my thing today and I can feel good about going home. But it had this, like, I can only speak for myself, obviously. Studio is great for a lot of people. I'm not shitting on it or saying it's bad. For me personally, though, I felt kind of like just this warm mush all the time. Like it was too comfortable. Like I could get my sleep and go in, and I'd get a set paycheck. And I stopped studying, and like I just kind of stopped live streaming. And yeah, I was really busy, but like I wasn't really pushing myself. I was just sort of meeting deadlines. And when it came time to either re up or leave, I decided to leave, and we started doing Steve around that point. And it was like I'm really glad I didn't stay because I think I'd still be exactly where I was if I had stayed. And like that's the thing of regularity is that it's regular. And like if you get into that cycle, you kind of stay where you're at over a long period of time, which is great for some people, especially if like you want certain things out of this that other people might not. But if you're trying to do personal stuff, or if you're not totally happy doing it, like you're saying you'd rather do characters, but you're not doing that stuff there, then I think you should probably get out of it. It might be weird to not have the regular income and the security for a little while, but in the long run, I think it's going to be worth it.
Hmm. Um, this is a good kind of follow up to that. This is after a couple other questions, but we'll go back to those. I just wanted to comment on this one
Hmm.
really quick. This person said, "So you don't need to be the best illustrator; you just need great ideas." Uh, yeah, like you just need to have an idea that you like or something that you enjoy. But the what I think is funny about this industry specifically is that it has these qualifiers that are weird, where it's like you need to be the best. It's so strange because the way that people kind of judge it, it's almost like you can't invite you can't invent a new sneaker unless you're the fastest runner in the world. Like
Hmm.
what? Like what are you talking about? Like, you know what I mean? It's so strange. Like you can't make a basketball unless you're Kobe Bryant. Like
Yeah,
no, you can do whatever you want. Like it's one of the only little industries where people have these qualifiers in place where it's like you can't make a book until you're this. You can't do a game until you're this.
right,
Nobody cares until you're that. And it's not true. You just need to have something to say. You just have something you want to do, and then you just do it no matter what it takes. And if it's good and you enjoyed it, then everybody else will feel that. It'll resonate with them. And, you'll find people who enjoy those things. It doesn't need to be the immediate people who are judging you based off of solely your skill. That being said, learning all of those things and being a great artist can only help you in terms of growing and making something that looks good and is successful in the visuals. Like you need to
right,
understand basic things like composition, all that other stuff. It's like you need to always work on that, but that's all
right.
a part of the process of doing the thing that you love. But yeah, I mean, like that whole disconnect is funny to me.
I mean, that's the other thing too, is like I'm seeing in the chat, like Radiaton is putting like, the terms illustrator and concept artist in quotes to explain what's required of each. The weird thing now is that none of that really applies anymore. If you're an illustrator with good skills, you can get hired to do illustrations or concept art. If you're a concept artist with skills, you can get hired to do illustrations. If you're a graphic designer who knows Photoshop, there's plenty of movie poster work that is technically called illustration that you're going to get hired to do because you're compositing photos and doing Photoshop filters and stuff. Like, it's so ubiquitous and all over the place now. Like, illustrators aren't clearly defined within a margin of what makes them an illustrator, and concept artists aren't clearly defined in margins of what make them a concept artist. Everyone can kind of do everything now, depending on what jobs they want to take. Like, that's the weird thing, is that if the core skills it takes to be a concept artist are almost one for one the same skills it takes to be an illustrator. It's just with illustrations, people assume it's narrative. Like, people assume it's a scene, but illustrations don't have to be a scene. Illustrations can be a very graphic design book cover. They can be a very graphic design movie poster, and those all fall under the umbrella of illustration. Like, they're not set things anymore that have boundaries. Everyone can kind of do everything. So try not to think of things in such a binary way where it's like I'm either this or I'm that. You can kind of do all of it if you want to, and it's a lot of fun to try to do all of it because you might find out you enjoy things you've never done before.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting what you can actually do in the world. It's like I saw these guys making weapons on YouTube, and they're like all these like these blacksmith dudes who do like Assassin's Creed and God of War and all these
Oh
things,
yeah,
and
Dark Souls weapons. Yeah,
it's like that craft of being a blacksmith. There are real things that applies to. Like you can do things in the world, and like make aircraft. Like you can like weld aircraft. You can make the parts. You can do all of these things. Like you can be a steel
right,
worker and whatever. Like you can have a facility and like those are practical things. But at the same time, it's like they're not making money off of those weapons. They're not making the weapon, selling the weapon. It's like they want to do that because it's fun and it's interesting to do it with their skill set. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, it's not about the product. It's about the process. They put it online. They make all their money from advertising, and then that's how they make a living. And then video game companies contacted them and were like, "You do a really good job. Can you make something from our game to promote the next one that's coming out, and we'll pay you?" And it's like, it's a roundabout way to do the thing that you love and you make a living off of it. And I just think that
Right.
the amount of options you have right now to do things that you enjoy, it's like you just have to get creative. You just have to find a way to apply your skill to something and make a profit. It's like the Patreon stuff that everybody has. It's like that was a version of it. It's like subscribing to somebody that you want to support because you just like what they do, period.
Yeah, like Rayton was saying, that's true, but you don't need great ideas to be an illustrator. You absolutely need great ideas to be an illustrator. Like, let's say, for example, a book company wants to publish a cover for a new release of Game of Thrones or something. What they're going to do is they're going to pick the cover that is the best execution of what's going to get someone to see that book either on a website or from across a room and go, oh, I want that book, which means that they need someone who can come up with a really cool design, really cool color palette, something striking and something memorable. All of that means that you have to have the best idea in the group. You have to see that, know what the book is, know what's in the book, and come up with the best way to communicate that in a static image that's going to translate across distance, be memorable, have interesting shape design. You have to have the best idea. You absolutely need to have good ideas to be an illustrator.
Yeah.
Illustration isn't just a series of steps where you finish a piece. Okay, here's this, here's that. We did the math equation. It's an illustration. You have to have so many good ideas to be an illustrator. They're just different kinds of ideas.
It
You
also
need
depends on
great.
what you define great as.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like you need to have great ideas to be a good concept artist too, but it's a different kind of idea. It's a design idea in terms of a costume or an environment. It's not a design idea in terms of a striking image that's going to stay with you. Like it's great ideas in both cases. It's just different kinds of ideas.
Yeah, like if great to you is making a living
Right.
and not like, like to me, great would be like Norman Rockwell, Line Decker. Like those are great illustrators. There aren't a lot of those. There's like, I like Sam Weber. I like,
Right.
I like, James Jean,
Frank Frazetta.
Frank Frazetta. Like,
Yeah.
there's all kinds of, like James, Bama.
Right.
Like I like really great illustrators, but I mean, it depends on your definition of it. Because if great is just making money, then there's a lot of great illustrators.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean,
In
like,
terms of the great ideas, like, a simple idea can still be a great idea. There's a reason that so many Frazetta paintings stay in your mind for as long as they do. It's because he understood that less was more, and he could take less and maximize it. Like, I'll do the most possible cool stuff with a guy wearing a loincloth that you've never seen before, and it stays with you because of the execution.
it's just the strength of the shape of the composition. It's
Right.
like it's so simple and just executed so well, and the brushstrokes and everything is such a high energy level. It just feels so confident. Everything about it feels confident because simple executed well feels confident. Like
Right.
I'm not overcomplicating this. I'm not like overworking it. It's just like keeping it loose, nailing it, like defining what needs to be defined and losing the rest and all that kind of stuff. It has a feeling to it. But
Right.
yeah.
Here's a good one that we passed, but I like it.
Sam's.
Yeah. Do you guys do anything to counter the effect on long-term personal projects where you get better the longer you work on them, so the first stuff always looks worse than the later stuff, or do you just accept that as inevitable? Well, for something like Skull and Shark, which is going to try to be more uniform and look the same from start to finish, we're absolutely going to think about that. But for Steve, part of the joke of the book is that you get this really nice cloth-bound hardcover book with gold foil stamping, and you open it up and it's dumb comics about skeletons. And like, so having the first issues look as bad as they do, and oh boy, when you look at the later issues, the first ones look bad, and then having it evolve to looking really clean and pretty good by the end of it almost makes the joke of the book better. So
Yeah.
like, we didn't go back and change those. It's sort of like, we think it's funny that the first comic looks so much shittier than the last comic. Like, we like that a lot. Plus, people like that comic. That's the only reason we did the book, is we put that up and people liked it. So why would we change it? Like, we don't want to do the George Lucas thing, where you go back and you mess with the old thing that people already liked. But I mean, with something that's going to be like, Steve's a serial thing. We're going to keep going with Steve as long as we have ideas. It doesn't have a narrative arc with a beginning, middle, and end. It's going to exist as long as we want it to exist, and it's going to keep going indefinitely. So it can change. It can afford to change because it's not one complete thing. Skull and Shark is a beginning, middle, end narrative arc. It's like a movie. You don't want the costumes in a movie to change for no reason on the characters from the beginning to the middle of the end, unless there's a context reason in the plot. You want it to look like the same movie the whole way through. So we're definitely going to have to think about that with that book.
Yeah, I mean, it just the whole like thing, like Dan was saying, it just depends. But I don't know. I think personally, like it has a little bit of like charm to it when you get to see like where you started out and like where it goes. Like to
Mm-hmm.
have the notable improvement go throughout. It's more like human to me. I personally like seeing that in things. Uh, you know, like how people like looking at sketches and like when people messed up, like seeing like one of my favorite like Derek Sivers videos where he talks about failure, where he shows a Picasso painting where it's like a video process and it shows him like redoing things over and over, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like you wouldn't think somebody like that does that, but it's like it's cool to see it.
Right.
Like I like that kind of thing, but yeah, you get better the longer you work on them. I mean, you should just be lucky that you get better, really.
Right.
Like that's good
Well,
enough for me.
to answer Crowner's question, Crowner says, well, it's not really a question, it's a statement, but it's something good to talk about. I think what is scary is being obsolete. Like, I really like doing traditional more than digital, but most things seem to require being digital almost completely. Yeah, people assume that, and I mean, it is true for like a lot of video game stuff because they want stuff in the pipeline or movie
Yeah,
stuff. Like, they want to have editable files and things that they can throw into
quick
Photoshop and give to
revisions.
give to anyone in the chain. But like, Dave works on movie stuff and he does traditional things for parts of it. I
Yeah,
mean, I've done traditional stuff for jobs. If you work on illustrations for book covers and stuff, they absolutely love traditional because then they can hang the cover up in a gallery. Comics, you can do traditional. You can sell your pages if you pencil them. If you do traditional covers, you can sell those like Paulo Rivera. You can absolutely make a living doing traditional. You just have to find the industries that kind of embrace traditional.
and
Like,
the other side that I've kind of been like against for a while, and I'm kind of against it more and more, just like as we keep going and like publishing and stuff, is that like there's this weird thing of like you should just be able to do it,
mhm.
and it's like things just aren't that way. Like none of us deserve the right to be able to do these things, and it's
Right,
like we if the case is that it's too quick of a deadline, then if you want to do it, you absolutely can. The thing is, you just need to get faster, and that's like that's all that it is. It'd be really hard, but you can do it. That's the challenge. It's like you can do it. Unfortunately,
right.
we live in a world that has been defined by advancement in terms of the art that's being done. So it's like the first person that did the the movie work and put together the photos and did the what everybody's calling photo bashing, photo paint overs. It's like the first person who did that and made it normal defined that deadline for everybody else.
Right.
So now everybody expects that you should be able to do that deadline with that amount of time. And I've had people tell me that like I can't do that when I work in movies to do even just like regular drawings in Photoshop. But I can totally do that. It's like that's all I do. I never use photos, not because, you know, I hate the process of using photos. Like I've had to do it a bunch of times in advertising and things that are just impossible deadlines.
Right.
But yeah, it's like if you want to do it, you absolutely can. It's like just find a way, like find it in yourself. If it's something you're passionate about, just find it and do it. Like you can totally do it. Work really hard. It's not impossible.
Yeah, like, any illustration job pretty much aside from movie posters you could do traditional on and get away with as long as you can do it within the deadline. Like Magic, RPG stuff, book covers, you can do, all that stuff you can do traditional for and it's totally fine.
Yeah, I mean it sucks that it has to be that way, but Frank Frazetta painted images overnight,
Yeah.
and it's like, and they're classic. It's not impossible. It's just
No.
like if you are really into it and you really think you can do it, then just go hard at it. Just if it's something you're passionate about, do it. Don't let people tell you it's impossible or that, you have to do something a certain way. Whenever anybody
Yeah.
ever tells you that, it's like they're only limiting themselves because you can totally do it.
That's the weird thing about the traditional discussion is that it's just an assumption. People say that, and they hear other people say it, so they repeat it and they go, "Oh, it's a shame you can't do traditional." And it's like that's just an assumption people are making because they've heard other people say it, and it's complete bullshit. Like outside of two very specific industries, video games and film, you can do traditional on almost every single job you have.
Yeah, yeah. Ian McKeg does it.
Yeah, and
He's like one of the biggest
he's
out there.
fine. Exactly. And even with yeah, that's the other thing is even with some movies you can do it like the Marvel stuff. As long as you're on time, like they're gonna let you. Same with the Star Wars stuff. They love traditional.
Yeah, I would just don't listen to people that tell you you have to do one thing or the other.
Well, don't
You know,
listen to
like
anybody who says anything absolutely in terms of this community. If people just go like, "Oh yeah, flat out no," like they probably don't know what they're talking about.
yeah, think of what somebody like what would you have said if the photo thing didn't exist and somebody said, "I'm going to do a painting only in photos and make money off of it."
Yeah,
What would you have said? You would have said that's crazy. When in a world of traditional art, you would have been like that's nuts. What are you talking about? You mean photography? And they'd be like, no, it's not like that. And then when they do it and you go, wow, that actually came out really cool. I didn't think that was possible. It's like, yeah, so those same people telling you that you have to do it their way now, that was a thing that wasn't possible before.
right. I don't actually know if Pete's stuff for Angelarium is traditional, is it?
I don't know.
I've never seen
I've
Pete.
seen him. I think I've seen him on like a YouTube video painting in Photoshop. But
He probably does both. A lot of
yeah,
that's the other thing is a lot of the illustration community just knows how to do both, and they do both. Sometimes they'll start something by drawing it traditional, then finish it digital, or they'll print out a digital drawing and paint it with oil. Like it's a lot of people just mix and match based on the thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing is the secondary income too that we didn't really hit on. John brought it up in the chat, John Severin. Stuff like Magic and things where the rates are pretty set within a boundary. Like you'll either get this on the low end or this on the high end. You actually make more money if you're a traditional artist than you do if you're a digital artist because you can sell the original and make way more money. Like if you do like a character card for a planeswalker and it's a traditional painting, you make the money you make for Magic, and then you can make the money you make from doing playmats or whatever their new deal is with that. But then if you go to a convention that's a Magic convention and you bring that painting with you, you can sell it to fans for thousands of dollars. So you actually end up making more if you're traditional with certain things, especially with book covers. If you did a very popular book cover, and again, that's all thanks to Frank Frazetta because he's the one that originally started putting that in his contracts, and now it's kind of universal.
Yeah.
You do a very popular book cover for something, and people love the book, you can sell that original of the cover for huge amounts of money.
Yeah, I mean, it's just whatever you want, pretty much.
Yeah,
And you can also make a world you want. Like we live in a time where, as long as you're smart and you're like at least a little bit like business savvy or you understand marketing a bit and you treat it as a job in the same way that you would treat a job, it's like then you can do it. You just got to get creative with it. You can make it happen. Like what's his face, Ross
oh,
draws.
Ross Tran.
It's like he took the formula that everybody has on YouTube where they have the big boisterous character who talks and his loud voice and the quick
Yeah,
editing and all that stuff, and he applied it to art. He took the thing that we all do and brought it into another world, and there you
right.
go, it works. It's
And
the
that's why he's
contrast.
got an yeah, and that's why he's got an edge on so many people.
Yeah, it's like
It's because he took a thing that worked in one place and he adapted it to what he likes to do naturally, and there you go.
yeah, he was like, I bet I could talk to people like, like I don't, I'm like a, I'm an energetic guy that likes talking to people. So why don't I use that and put it in something else? Like he's
Mhm.
not the greatest artist in the world, but he's making a good living off of that. So, more power to him and people like that who can kind of transcend their own space.
Right.
I
Anyway,
think,
huh?
huh?
What were you laughing at?
As a thank you, Frank Frazetta raised his glass to the sky.
Yeah,
Mike
Frank.
Burns.
Frank made it better for all of us.
Yeah, he did.
Uh, just a question out of curiosity. What would you guys prefer? A world where everyone worked in the traditional medium, or a world where we work in both digital and traditional as it is now? I like it the way it is now because more options means more creativity. So why would you limit the options?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's just that, you have
I
this
see.
whole world of options.
My two favorite like illustrators in terms of like I mean James Jean isn't really an illustrator anymore. He's more of like his own fine art thing, but he started
Yeah.
off as an illustrator. My two favorites when I was coming up were him and John Foster. And the thing they have in common is they both use both. Sometimes they'll do something that's entirely traditional, sometimes they'll do something that's entirely digital, but most of the time they do a hybrid. They'll do a drawing, scan it, color it, print it out on canvas, paint over the printout. Like they just go nuts and they use the best qualities of both mediums because there's stuff you can do in Photoshop that you just can't do with Paint, and there's stuff you can do with Paint that you just can't do in Photoshop. So they would take the best of both approaches and put it together and make these crazy pieces where you stare at them and go like, "Whoa!" Like I've never seen stuff like that. And like
Right.
James Jean's still my favorite, and he uses everything. He uses every possible tool at his disposal to execute the thing he wants to execute, and it's like it's amazing stuff. So
And that
I'm
dude
always
who
for more.
presses the gold leaf.
Yeah, and then he embosses the page with a special thing when he does
Right.
prints, and Johan Lossel, another guy who I love, tons of gold leaf and old fashioned print press stuff, and like the more options, the better. So I would definitely vote for traditional and digital over just one.
Yeah, it's awesome. Just the amount of like variation you have. Like I don't know. Like you can learn so much from both. Like my favorite part of transitioning between was when I started doing watercolor and I had to go into a whole different mindset. Like just jumping into it, it was like, oh, there's so much structure involved in this. It's like I can't go crazy like I do in Photoshop and just paint shapes and render things and dig into it. Like you can't do that. It's like you have to actually plan. Um, so I really enjoy watercolor for that because it taught me a lot of restraint. It taught me to be patient and to like really, if I'm going to put time into something, to make sure I build a solid foundation first. And
Yeah,
that was a really good experience for me personally, coming from the whole like speed painting thing and like kind of impatientness that I feel like digital art kind of put in me, where I wasn't
right,
willing to wait for stuff to dry, or like I'd be like, if I had to wait like hours or whatever, I'd be like, what the fuck? But
right.
yeah, like going into that world was awesome, and I think the same thing would happen vice versa. It's like if you were only doing watercolor, then you touch digital, you'd be like, I can fly through stuff. Like I
Yeah,
can just fly. Like this is crazy. Like once you get a handle on it and you have that discipline going into it, yeah, I don't know. I love going back and forth between things and getting different experiences, like doing inking, like how permanent everything is and how
right.
deliberate you have to be. It's just one of my
That's the thing.
favorite
Like
things.
I have way more fun painting with oil and acrylic. I just, digital's faster for my job, so I tend to do digital more often. But
Right.
like, I love traditional.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Well, like I like it. I've learned that for me, digital artwork to me, and this is me shitting on myself. I have total respect for everybody who does digital. I do digital. Dan does digital. It's
Hmm.
like, but it's kind of like playing an iPhone game. I can't
Yeah,
lose. I can't lose. I can always restart. It's like it's super forgiving. Like
yeah.
it's really straightforward and you know
Short of your computer crashing, there's not really a fail state.
yeah, it's like I can always go back. It's not like it's casual for me. Like it's not a big deal. I don't have to die in it. But like if I'm doing traditional, it's like Dark Souls. It's like when I'm
Right.
dead, I'm dead. Like I'm just dead. So the risk in that, like I
One
love
wrong
that
move.
feeling.
One wrong move and you spill some water and the whole watercolor painting's gone.
Yeah, it's like in
And then it
watercolor
says
Dark Souls. Like yes,
it says you died and then you
and
just
then,
go to bed.
and then all those hours
Yeah.
gone. I mean, I'd say
Yeah,
Dark
that's the
Souls
thing.
is
And
more
I mean,
forgiving.
I used to hate it when people said this in art school, but now that I'm like not in art school and I don't just hate them because I'm there, I totally get it. Like I had professors who would never let anyone do digital, and the excuse they always used was digital is less good than traditional because it's not a tactile thing. You can't hold it. It's not a real thing and it doesn't have that value of real. And like I used to be like, fuck you. Like and I still think that's a really pretentious thing to say, and I would never repeat that. But it is satisfying to have a canvas in front of you and have a thing that you're actually putting strokes on, and then when it's done you hold it and you go, oh look, I built this physical thing. It's like it's the difference between if I made a chair in ZBrush and I built a chair. It's like it's more satisfying to me personally, maybe not for everybody, to have built a chair and look at it and go, wow, I built that thing.
Right. Yeah, I feel that's why I've been doing a ton of traditionals because I just feel so much better about it. And I think it's mostly because of the fact that I've done digital for so long. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah, I don't know. Let me see. I haven't done any work for Total Warhammer game. Yeah. Somebody asked that in the chat. Okay, so that guy 4242 asks, "Do you guys still browse ArtStation, etc., or stay away from it, not to get distracted or influenced by the trends?"
I mean, this is a bad answer because I don't want to like write off a website, but I never look at ArtStation because it's so much of the stuff on there looks exactly the same.
Yeah,
Like I'm just not interested. It feels like a bubble universe where people see something that was done on ArtStation and they imitate it, and then because two people did it, another person sees it, so a third person does it, and then as a result, a huge percentage of the work on there just feels like the same couple trends over and over and over again, and like I just don't have fun browsing it, so I kind of just
yeah,
naturally stopped going there.
yeah. It's kind of like how I feel.
I'd rather
Um,
browse Tumblr and find random
right.
stuff I wasn't expecting that's cool than go through ArtStation because it's like I'll find
Well,
unexpected cool new things that I never even knew about. But on ArtStation, it's like, okay, there's, photo manipulation soldier guy with belt with packs on it. Oh, there's cyborg near future guy. There's, I'm just like, I don't know. It's not exciting for me. So
I've
I don't
just
know. I
seen
just,
too much of it. It's that same thing of like I felt when I was playing Doom, where I was like,
yeah,
for everybody else who's playing this for the first time, it's like they didn't see all this stuff before, but I feel like these have been in people's sketchbooks and like concept art forever. Like all these
mhm,
demons and stuff that I've seen a million times. And it's like, oh yeah, this is still something. Like it's not overdone in the rest of the world. Like it's not something that's saturated. Like
right.
maybe a little bit, but not by a lot. Not to the point where you're like, these designs, I've seen them, they're not very good. Like they're still pretty good designs. It's like they're still pretty good. Like
Mhm.
they can exist without being associated with that thing. It's like, but when you live in that world for a really long time, it's hard to kind of like see that stuff as like new and cool or whatever. But like I
Yeah.
was saying before, it's like if you took it out of that environment and put it somewhere else, it would be new. It would be this new cool thing. But yeah, I mean, I don't really browse it just because of the sameness, but it's the same thing as anything else. It's like on
Well,
Tumblr,
that's
the red
that's the
nose and
thing.
the indie thing, and then on every other
That's the
place there's its own like theme of something else. There's something that's
Yeah.
throughout all of it.
That's the thing, To, is this is why I don't really go to ArtStation. You said like there's some cool original things though. And yeah, there are. But here's the thing. Because those cool original things are so few and far between, when people find them, they share them to Facebook and stuff and they go, "Whoa, look at this thing I found on ArtStation. This person's amazing." So I end up seeing them anyway because 99% of the stuff doesn't on ArtStation doesn't get shared to Facebook and Twitter and stuff because it doesn't stand out. The things that do stand out, people go like, "Whoa," and they share it, and then I end up seeing it anyway. So it's like I don't need to browse because I'm going to find it anyway. Other people see it and they go, "Oh, this is refreshing," and then as a result, we see it. So it's like, okay, cool. There's definitely people on there doing cool original stuff, but it's a very small percentage.
Yeah, I personally don't have. I mean, not just ArtStation, but like most things, it's like I like
Yeah,
art, but I'm more interested in like design. So
me too.
I'll like look at more historical stuff rather than like paintings of new things, like just stuff from imagination. I'm like
Right.
more interested in like stuff from the late 1800s, like design from that period or whatever. It's like I'll look for that kind of thing, and then I'm not really worried about. Uh, Not that you need to be worried about it, but like when I'm doing like the Steve stuff, it's like I'm not worried about being the greatest artist in the world, or
Hmm.
and I'm not like actively seeking out really great artists to like look at and like admire. I'm
Right.
more or less just living in my own world and just like I like listening to like stand up comedy. Like that's what I seek out. Like that's what
Right.
I'm really interested in. Is like I like
And
jokes,
that's, I mean, that's the
interviews.
thing is like, I don't want this to come off like we're shitting on just ArtStation. I don't browse DeviantArt either
Yeah.
for the same reason because it's overwhelmingly anime, and there are great artists on there doing stuff that aren't anime, and I do find them through other means. But like, I don't go to DeviantArt and just browse and just look through the site because there's
No.
so much of the same. Like, art, it's not just ArtStation. It's, I don't really browse any of those sites. If it's really good, I'm gonna see it somewhere else anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it has nothing to do with it being bad. It's just that we saw it all the time for a really long time. Just got bored and stopped really like I don't know.
Yeah.
Just like it's like a band you listen to over and over again. Sometimes you just have to stop listening to it and listen to something else.
Yep.
Let me see.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Max Smith says people get wrapped up in the competitive rendering stuff without any new ideas. It's a race to the bottom. Uh,
Uh, Race to the bottom's a little strong, but it's definitely a race to everything being homogenized.
yeah, I
It's
think
not. It's not the bottom. It's just everything does end up looking the same.
here's what I can compare it to that I think is kind of similar. It's like the culture of breakdancing right now is all I mean, for a long time now.
It's a great pull.
It's been less about style and more about execution. So everybody does the same power moves, they do the same kind of motions. It's like you see the same breakdancer over and over and over again, where it is really hard to do all of those moves, but there's nothing essentially creative about it. It's almost like putting it through a computer. And not that that's what the art is, but like it's just becomes kind of formulaic where you go, if I do this, this, and this, I'm the best breakdancer. And and then you go back to like the 80s and you watch like all of these like old school breakdancers and they just do creative stuff like that's like the most of it, and in
Right.
that same way there's always going to be creative dancers and you see them and you go, wow, that's really awesome, like that's like that's a new way of doing that thing, like that's really cool. That exists everywhere in life, like everything's kind of formulaic. It goes through the you have a set of like what you do to get better, and
Mm.
some people become obsessed with that and they only do that. They don't add style, they don't add their own personal touches necessarily, maybe a little bit
Right.
here and there, but most of it's very mechanical. And people love being a part of a system. People love doing the steps in a system. That's how we kind of grow. We
Sure.
trust that school will make us smarter because it's been in place for so long. We trust that processes we've seen work a bunch. It's like
Right.
that'll lead somewhere. So it's like these trusted things end up leading to the decisions of becoming these like mechanical people.
Yeah. It's the same
It's
reason.
not wrong.
Again, it's not just the sites. It's
Hold
the
on, I
same
gotta go
reason
away for
I.
a second.
Sure. It's the same reason I don't look at like atelier drawings and just browse through atelier drawings. Like, I can appreciate the technical skill that went into doing them and the fact that they're high realism and the fact that a lot of work went into it, but I don't, I'm not entertained looking at it. Like, it's not visually exciting to me. Like, I can look at it and go, wow, they worked really hard on that and the results are really good, but like, it doesn't inspire me. Like, I'd rather see a cool graphic design thing or like a weird like decision on a book cover or some cool pixel art thing, and that's like, oh wow, that's really cool. Like, it's something I don't normally see. But yeah, I don't know. It's the same thing. When you can see the process they went through and it's so recognizable, it kind of, I don't know, it doesn't excite me. But yeah, again, this is just our opinions. We're not saying anyone's wrong if they like that stuff. We can only speak for ourselves. Anyone got any questions while Dave tends to his dogs? What do I think about Kim Jong Gi? He's great. I love that he just kind of draws for a living, and it's just whatever he wants to draw. If he decides that this thing needs a lawnmower in it, it's going to have a lawnmower. If he decides that he wants a boat or a moose or a dude wearing a mask or a chainsaw, it's going to show up. And you never know what the thing's going to be till it's done because he can draw pretty much anything from his head, so he can throw stuff in wherever, and it's always interesting to watch. But yeah, I like his stuff. I think it's very specific to him. I don't think he's a person you can imitate, like a James Jean or something like that. I think he's got the market for that because it's him. I wouldn't recommend imitating that, but I do love looking at him do it.
Hey,
Yeah, Kim Jong Gi.
oh, what about him?
Just thoughts on Kim Jong Gi. I was
Okay.
just saying I like his stuff, but he's one of those people that you can't really imitate because it's so specific to him.
Yeah. Did you answer Sam's thing?
What did Sam say?
So I
I
feel
feel like
like I'm
I'm.
constantly just trying to forget stuff I've learned and do this stuff I was drawing as a kid.
Oh yeah, we went through that. We still go through that. I mean, that's the thing. Like you you try to get out of the hole of not having a career by copying people that have careers so you can imitate them and succeed by learning what they learned, which is great. But then you get to a certain point where you realize you're only emulating other people and you're not doing your own thing. So then you start to unlearn all the stuff that got you there in the first place. So it's kind of like a hill. You go up the hill, you get the financial security of having a job and you learn all this stuff, and then you go down the hill and you kind of unlearn all that thing and you just kind of build your own career. But yeah, I mean, we've both been through that. That's what you started doing when you went to the lines and comic style.
Yeah, because I used to do comics when I was a kid. I used to draw, like, I used to fill up notebooks full of little stick figure comics and things like that, like, all the time. And I kind of got away from it because, well, even when me and Dan, we both took a comics course at,
Hmm.
was it AIB?
Oh yeah, with Nick Dragata. Yeah.
Yeah, Nick Dragata of Marvel Comics.
Mm-hmm.
We took a class, and it was a comics class because we had always wanted to do comics. When we were in, high school, we were working on a comic. We were writing it. We weren't working on it, but we like planned out all this stuff, and we never did anything with it. And like, and then when we started getting into like, we found conceptart.org and got involved in that, and after that, it was like, oh, okay, like it's not really possible to do comics because you don't make any money. Like that's what you hear over and over. So I never even thought about it after that, and then I kind of just forgot that it was something I ever wanted to do, and I felt like I've been building back towards that, and now I get it again. I'm like, I understand this. Like I always did this as a kid. It's how I like communicated ideas when I was like like I was like 10 years old doing 200-page comics, and I did Garfield comics. I did everything, and it's funny to finally be back at that point and just not care necessarily, like not care in terms of like what you're putting out there, what people think. It's just like you're having fun, you're saying stuff, you're just laughing, whatever, and then hopefully people like it. I love that. It's way more like freeing to me. And yeah, that was like me finding what I kind of loved when I was a kid,
Yeah.
rediscovering it anyway. Dan has a. This is to prostate sunrise. Is that you,
Is
KK?
that who I? Is that KK?
I don't know, but he said
I know
Dan.
that. I know that name, and someone's imitating him.
If yeah, uh,
Prove yourself, KK. Reveal yourself.
it says Dan. A few streams ago, during the signing, you were going to tell us wacky art school stories, but you were too tired.
There's too many. I don't want to do it now because this stream is kind of like down the Q&A thing. But I'll be to answer another question in the chat. I will be streaming again, and it will be daily. So I'll be doing studies, paint overs, discussions, looking at people's portfolios, just general stuff like I used to do. I'll be doing those every day again, so you'll hear stories. You might not hear them tonight, but I guarantee you'll hear some.
I like this. Sam saying, "Spend your childhood wishing you could draw good. Spend your adulthood wishing you could draw like a child."
Yeah, that's why I like envy Jake Wyatt. I look at his stuff and I'm like, fuck you for figuring it out.
Yeah, it feels like a kid's imagination.
Get out of here. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I
it's
miss
not
that.
KK.
I
Ooh.
miss that like freedom of just doing whatever and not caring about anything. The way that you used to create stuff when you were a kid. Like I would watch Mortal Kombat, the movie, and I was little, and the first thing I do is take my shirt off and go into the woods. And I was, and I was, what's his face, Liu Kang,
I guess we
and
should we
nobody
re-enable
judged me.
links? Nobody judged you. Right, yeah. I can imagine you kicking the tire swing in your backyard there, pretending to be Mortal Kombat man.
I used to just I could do flips and stuff. I watched too many Van Damme movies, but yeah, like that kind of feeling of like who cares, do exactly what I want. That's how. I mean,
Uh,
that really that's how you like make stuff.
I think I'm just going to stream on this channel to keep it easy because we're
Yeah.
going to be doing so much in the future. We're going to be doing so much stuff with Steve on here and like the acceptable comics thing that we're probably both just going to use this channel to make it easier. So there's graphics for when I'm streaming and graphics for when Dave's streaming. You can see them on the screen now. It's like a little me and a little Dave. So if it's me, you'll see me there. If it's Dave, you'll see Dave there. And if it's both of us, you'll see both of us.
Yep. Yep. And these all go
Very
up on
sorry.
YouTube when we're done. So you just
Very
go
sorry.
to the link below.
Apologies to all the people listening who only want to watch Dave and will get the notification and find out it's me every day.
Well, we're gonna try and keep it mostly like it's gonna kind of be podcasty
Right.
because of how we're going to be working. Like the way that we're doing the book, it's like we can't show stuff from like later issues, and we want to exist and talk about things that we're doing. I mean, we want to like help people if we can who want to do the same kind of thing, and at the same time help ourselves and just like being able to talk about the stuff that we usually just talk to each other about and kind of like I don't know. We don't exist in terms of like posting artwork so much.
Hmm.
So we want to still like hang out with you guys.
Yeah, we miss that community aspect. It's just we can't show the stuff we're doing, so gonna have to find a middle ground.
But
I'm still doing
because
studies and stuff, so I'll stream those.
right,
But yeah.
but because we're doing our own self-published stuff, we do have more time to at least talk.
Are they gonna be same time? No.
Yeah.
I might do a set time in the morning for my streams. Until we get all the Amazon books shipped to people, my schedule doesn't have any kind of regularity because if someone has I try to respond within an hour anytime anyone messages me on Kickstarter. If I get an email in the middle of the night and someone says, "Oh my God, my address changed," I try to respond immediately, and I've been really good about that just so far. But like we're getting to that hurdle with the Kickstarter where the books are actually going out. So like for the next month of stuff getting shipped, I want to be totally on top of that to make sure everybody gets the stuff and has their tracking numbers and knows exactly when their thing arrives and that I'm there to help if it doesn't. So the stream times are going to jump around for June. After that, I'll probably have a set time every day.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna be kind of sporadic. I mean, we'll just be we'll be consistently sporadic. They'll be like every couple days,
Yeah, there you go.
and sometimes
There
I'll
you go.
probably draw. Sometimes we'll probably just talk, and Dan will
Yeah,
study sometimes.
there's going to be times when Dave draws and we both talk. There's going to be times when I do a study and Dave comes on to talk while I do a study. It's going to be all different kinds of stuff. But yeah, it's if anyone remembers back when we used to do streams, it's basically going to be like that again,
Hmm. Well, and
except
then
not
always
14 hours.
you can catch up on them on the YouTube.
I
That's
mean,
kind
maybe
of
I'll
how
do
we're
some.
gonna go.
I mean, I don't know if OBS will let us go that long, but maybe I'll try it.
What?
14-hour streams.
Yeah, no way.
Get used to do. It's stupid.
I was just gonna say, for anybody who is coming from like our just knowing Steve,
Hmm.
uh, just want to reiterate that the next book's Kickstarter will be in October again. And we
Hmm.
have a newsletter for anybody who's interested in grabbing a copy because book one and book two will be available.
Yes.
So you can just go to stevelichman.com and sign up for the newsletter at the top of the page. And then, yeah, we'll be shipping them in the same kind of turnaround time as we have this time. Might be a little bit longer because it's a bigger book and more production time because we're doing two at the same time, but we'll figure all that out, and yeah, we'll let you know when it launches.
Just to be safe, we're probably going to keep the same delivery window as the first one, maybe add a month. So, like, we'll say expect it in July, and if it shows up before July, great, that's an awesome surprise. But if not, like, we don't want to have any risk of delay. And this is a longer book, so the proofing process is going to take longer. Even if it's done at launch, which we're going to try and do, it's still going to take forever with all the back and forth approval and, getting the Chinese printers to schedule it for being printed. And it just, we learned doing this first one that even if it seems like something's only going to take a month, it's probably going to take 4 months.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's really kind of out of our hands in a lot of respects. Like,
and
we want to be able to say we can do something, but like at the end of the day, if they don't make the boat, it's not shipping on time.
And that's the other thing too, is like we feel like we sold a lot of books because we were so over target, and we were like super excited about that. But for big printers in China who do like all kinds of crazy bulk stuff, 6,000 books is nothing. So we're actually like a low priority client. So like they'll get to it when they get to it. So like that's the other thing we learned is like our timeline is not their timeline, and they don't really care. So like, we just need to plan around that this time.
For those of you wondering, I am streaming from a bathroom.
Are you really?
No, but I thought maybe the toilet flush got picked up.
When did you flush your toilet?
Oh, I didn't.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Will you guys? Oh, Mozzie said, "Will you guys do a special Steve stream for when people start receiving their books?" We talked about doing something special that I don't know. We'll announce later when we're like getting closer to doing it, but we're gonna set a time for it and stuff and do something after everybody has their books.
Any chance of doing paint-overs again? Yeah, I do plan to do that. I plan to help people with portfolio stuff and all the same stuff I used to do. Let's see. Any more collaborations with Laserhawk? We'd love to. He's a fantastic human being, high quality human. What about Starville? Any updates? Starville won't be happening for a while.
Yeah.
But Steve 2 is going to happen, and then we might do some other stuff, and then Starville's not in our like top 3 priorities right now, but it'll happen at some point.
Yeah, we want to do Skull and Shark before we do that. Before we like put it off again.
Right.
Because each one of these takes a long time. I don't know. We should probably get off of here. I gotta actually run because I'm gonna be flying out to the East Coast tomorrow and going over to someone's house, and they're gonna drive us to the airport and all that. So
all that
I wanted to come on here and stream with Dan and talk to you guys.
If anyone lives between Maine and Florida, and you think Dave might be going to your state, just walk around outside. You might see him.
Yeah, just yell.
He's on the East Coast. You might find him.
Scream out your window, Dave.
Yeah.
And if you hear me go, huh? That means I'm there.
And if anyone's in Rhode Island and wants to know my home address, just just PM me. I mean, I'm down to hang with anyone. It sucks here.
Yeah.
No one's in Rhode Island.
Dan's down to get drowned.
Neither of us saw Batman vs. Superman, Pervaholic, so we're not qualified to give you feedback on it.
Yeah.
Which is probably all the feedback you need, because we didn't see it.
Yeah.
So I guess that answers your question.
Right. Well, okay. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody.
Yeah. I guess follow us on Twitter if you want to know when we're going live again, whether it's me or Dave. I'm at DanielWarren86. David?
On Twitter?
Yeah.
I'm just at Dave Rapoza. Rapoza. There's a Z in there.
There's a Z, because Z's cooler than us.
At Dave Rapoza. And then, what else are we... Oh yeah, SteveLeichman.com, the newsletter for updates on the book. We have the YouTube channel, which is the link below the video. We're gonna have more stuff than that, but for now, we need to get everything kind of like made.
Delivered.
Yeah, everything needs to be delivered. We need a Steve Lichman Acceptable Comics website, and
Yeah.
then we'll actually have things to share.
Yes.
But yeah, thank you
We'll put
all.
this on. What are we putting this on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay, this will be on YouTube. But thanks everybody. And now we're gonna wait for 20 seconds or more so we don't cut ourselves off.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Stay strong, everyone.
10 more
Power to you.
seconds. 10 more seconds.
Oh. Oh.
So I'm gonna...
And we're gone. Gone.